You know,
Salon?
the one I go to. Bill, you can call the meeting to order.
All right, let's call to order Town of Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 at 6:03.
Okay, I'll do the roll call. Bill Marin,
Yo.
Joan Keith,
Here.
Gino Rossetti,
Here.
Eric Volzick,
Here.
Tracy Bennett,
Here.
Bernie Grauer,
Here.
Rob Levitt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All righty, everyone, welcome. Let's approve the minutes of April 21, 2020. Does anyone have any additions, changes, or comments to make? If not, let's have a motion.
I'll move. Second.
We have a first, we have a second. All in favor? Let's have a roll call vote, please, Susan.
Yes, Bill Marin,
Yes.
Joan Keith,
Yes.
Gino Rossetti,
Yes.
Eric Volzick,
Yep.
Tracy Bennett,
Yes.
Bernie Grauer,
Yay.
Rob Levitt.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passed, 7-0.
All righty. Thank you then. Let's go to the public hearing, Perco Riffle application. This is from James, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, let me share my screen here, just a quick second.
And while James is sharing his screen, let me just make a comment about how we're going to do public comment again. We have an opportunity to email planning@basalt.net with your name, phone number, and your address, and we will call you. Or you can text 970-379-1514, again with your name, phone number, and address anytime before we close the public hearing, and we'll give you a phone call and you can provide your opinion. So again, that text number is 379-1514. It's on the agenda, like the agenda packet. If you pulled it from our agenda center, that information of how to provide comments is on there. And you can also email planning@basalt.net. So James?
Okay, thank you. We have the applicant here this evening as well via Zoom. We've got John Perco. So to begin, this is a public hearing on an application that's submitted by John Perco and Jennifer Riffle for special review for a two-family dwelling at 710 East Cypress Drive. The property subject to the application is 710 East Cypress Drive. It's near the intersection of Cypress Drive and Frying Pan Road. And if you follow my cursor on the screen, here's the subject property, here's Cypress Drive, and here's Frying Pan Road. The site is approximately 15,000 square feet, and it currently contains a single-family residence of approximately 3,600 square feet. The residence was remodeled in 2018, and there are photos in your packet. Let me go down to the photos. Let me see if I can go down to the photos. Here's a photo of the house that's in your packet, and here's one of the parking areas, and then the other parking area is up here by the garage and in the garage. The property is zoned R2. As background, the applicants are proposing to convert it into a two-family dwelling by adding an interior demising wall and then turning a wet bar that currently exists into a full kitchen facility to make it a two-family dwelling. Two-family dwellings require special review approval in the R2 zone district, and process-wise, the Planning and Zoning Commission is the recommending body to Town Council on a special review. In reviewing the application, staff has identified several discussion items that are included in your packet, and we'd like to go through those discussion items that are in the staff memo. First is consistency with the master plan. The 2020 master plan that was just adopted contains objectives of integrating and maximizing attainable housing, as well as infill. And staff believes that the applicant and the application is consistent with those objectives. Related to consistency with neighborhood character, the applicants have identified a series of properties in the area and the neighborhood that are purported to have multiple units, including the adjacent property, and you can see the adjacent property on the photo. The adjacent property is a triplex and contains 3 rental units. And staff believes that moderately sized units, 2 moderately sized units is generally consistent with the character of the area. Other discussion items include compliance with the R2 zoning. It's a conforming lot with enough lot area for a 2-family dwelling through the special review process in the R2 zone district. The house is compliant with the floor area, the setbacks, and the height, and the applicant isn't proposing to make alterations to the outside of the structure just to add that demising wall in the interior. Related to parking, staff believes that there is sufficient parking proposed outside. This parking area right here has enough for 3 vehicles. And then there is an additional parking space up here by the garage, and there's also 1 space in the garage. There is a shared access road that you can see here that goes up to the adjacent triplex. The parking that's proposed for the 2-family dwelling is outside of that access easement or egress easement. Other topics include deed restriction and parkland dedication. The applicants are not proposing to deed restrict the second unit, but they propose to have it be a rental unit. Eagle County provided comments that are in your packet on the referral, and they suggested that it should be deed restricted as either a category rent capped unit or an RO unit. Staff thinks that if P&Z is interested in requiring it to be deed restricted, you could require a similar deed restriction to the ADU requirement, which typically is that 1 out of the 2 units would have to be a primary residence for a tenant. And there's language that P&Z could add to condition number 7 that's highlighted in gray in your packet if you, as P&Z, would like to have the deed restriction requirement. Staff researched other 2-family dwelling unit approvals that the town has granted over time. And it was a bit of a mixed bag with regards to whether there's a deed restriction placed on the other 2-family dwelling units. There really haven't been any special reviews approved for 2-family dwelling units since the early 2000s. So once again, it was kind of a mixed bag in terms of whether there were requirements for deed restrictions. If the P&Z desired to require deed restriction, similar to an ADU, the applicant would get a waiver from the parkland dedication fee of about $10,000. They go hand in hand with each other. So if P&Z did want to add the deed restriction requirement, you would also add a parkland waiver. Other items of discussion, water and sanitation district comments. There's a condition from those comments that no condominiumization would be allowed and that the units could not be sold separately in the future because they share water and sewer service lines. There's also, as I noted, a condition requiring no condominiumization and that the applicants do and conduct a shared maintenance agreement with the Sand District for shared maintenance lines. In terms of the building department comments, the building department has indicated that the demising wall between the two units would need to be at least 1 hour fire rated, and the applicants would have to have a safety inspection similar to the condition that was placed on the Clayson ADU at the last meeting. So that's included in the conditions of approval. So this evening, staff would recommend taking applicant comments, taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and then providing P&Z discussion. John, do you have some additional comments for P&Z?
Yeah, just a few. Thank you for the introduction and, as usual, a very thorough summary of the application. Just wanted to hit on a few points for the board's understanding of why we're proposing this, what some of our goals are for ourselves and for the community with this development and with this application. So as James noted, we did a remodel and addition in 2018. Kind of the photo that you can see there, that green and white area was the addition. The whole process of building this out started, multiple years ago with the design and getting funding and all of that. And before the project was completed, and when we were in the design and kind of contemplation stage with this, we didn't understand exactly what the space would be used for. There was thoughts that at that time we might have children and that it would be, a den space with extra bedrooms, thoughts of, as our parents are aging, to use it as kind of a mother-in-law suite area, or the potential for having it as a rental. So as we were building it, we weren't sure which direction that was going to go. And right now, Jen and I don't have children, probably won't, but if we do in the future, we could, change that back to a family space. But right now, we see the best benefit for us and for the community is to have this as a rental, to help with more attainable rental within the town of Basalt. And again, keeping within that neighborhood character, we definitely feel that is happening. As James kind of alluded to, the plumbing and sewer would be shared so that it can be condominiumized, and that's because of we built onto an older structure, and the plumbing and sewer lines are also interconnected. Separating them at this point would be a huge undertaking, and really the house wasn't developed that way. So it makes sense just to keep it all as one unit, never to sell it individually, and to keep the plumbing and sewer kind of on the same billing. Obviously, we'll pay the additional tap fees that are necessary for kind of the two dwelling pieces. I think the one thing that we have a difference of opinion on is the deed restriction. So that's the one I'd kind of like to hit on the most. To be frank, the reason that we would prefer not to have a deed restriction is for the property value. Jen and I plan to stay in this home for years and years to come. We've built it out as our dream home, and so we don't have any intention of going anywhere. But I do understand that this is how this gets played out right now will go on in perpetuity, regardless of how long we keep the home. And so I understand the town's desire to make sure that however, if this does go through, that it's protected and protects the community and the neighborhood going forward. It seems that one of the main concerns of why the deed restriction would go into place is to protect from this ever becoming a short-term rental. And that's not something that Jen and I ever intend to do with it. And I would just wonder if there's another way that we could avoid, make some sort of wording that would say this won't be a short-term rental rather than the deed restriction. I think there are benefits to the town to not have it deed restricted. There's the parkland dedication fee that you would receive. And also, with Jen's experience on town council, she saw that monitoring those resident occupied properties is a very time consuming task. It takes staff quite a bit of time. I think she said that you could have one full-time person dedicated to that one task. And so again, this would kind of alleviate more staff's time from having to do that. And I think one of the main reasons that we're looking at this or not having it deed restricted is just consistency amongst the code. As James said, it's kind of not that there's been many two-family dwellings, but that it's a mixed bag of what if they have been or haven't been deed restricted. Looking at the zoning of our property, it is zoned as R2. I did my best looking through the code, both for the town of Basalt and for Eagle County. Obviously, town of Basalt would be the authority having jurisdiction here, but the code doesn't call for this to be deed restricted. So I just like for it to be consistent. I fear having an arbitrary kind of penalizing the placement of this being deed restricted when maybe 2 years from now some other application comes through and they don't have the deed restriction. And similarly with Eagle County, I know that this comment originally generated from Eagle County asking for the deed restriction. Looking through their code, I don't see anything that calls out for a lot of this nature to be deed restricted. And it's actually on the contrary. I was looking at their code, and in sections 3-210 and 3-300, a lot of a similar nature. Eagle County calls out a duplex dwelling would be a use by right. It doesn't even need to go through a special review and wouldn't be deed restricted. So again, just looking for consistency and not having some arbitrary placement for this, and hope you'll consider that opinion and open to any other questions that you might have.
Alrighty, so are we done with the staff and applicant presentation? James?
Yes, staff believes it'd be appropriate time for public comment.
Okay, so well, before we do public comment, I want the commission to have a chance to ask questions, and then I want to do public comment. So let's start with Joan. Do you have any questions of staff or the applicant on this?
Not at this point, thank you.
Okay, Tracy, do you have any questions of staff or the applicant?
Not right now.
Okay. Bernie, do you have any questions?
None right now.
Okay, Eric, questions?
Just a couple quick ones, just following up on the email we got a little while ago from a neighbor. The parking is not an issue, James. It seems to fit everything despite what the neighbors are saying.
It does. Let me share my screen one more time to show you the site plan here in the photo, actually. So these are the parking spaces in addition to the parking up here by the garage. These spaces down here adjacent to the road actually belong to the adjacent property, the triplex that sits here. What we've heard from some of the neighbors, and we've got a couple more emails that we'll give to you during the public comment section, is that they're kind of concerned about this parking right here adjacent to the road. So they do provide sufficient parking for the two-family dwelling as required by the town code. And it's proposed outside of the access for the adjacent property, so it doesn't impede that access.
And then I think the other question that was raised by this resident was this idea of single-family dwellings. Is that just how it's listed out? I mean, obviously, we're going to be voting on changing that designation, and that's kind of a moot. Is that just a moot point?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Can you please repeat it?
Well, the comment was in regards to that for tax records is listed as a single-family residence. I'm assuming the purpose of this hearing is to change that designation.
It would be officially listed if approval was given as a two-family dwelling or duplex.
Okay. Great. That's kind of my only question. I guess for the applicant, in that it had been mentioned, or you had mentioned, I guess, in the application that you were looking to possibly rent this out to RMI, school people, giving back to the community. Would you be opposed to, I don't know necessarily how we would word it, but if we word it, instead of doing an ADU or deed restriction, something along the lines of documenting what you've expressed?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that that's something that we're very amenable to, and I wouldn't. I guess just thinking about the large picture is we could prioritize exactly those things of school teachers, RMI, SKICO, municipalities, and say, and as we're in the rental process, put it out there. If we don't, I think that we would get plenty. That's a really large pool, and I think we would get plenty of applicants for it. But I'd hate it if we didn't. Let's say we put it out there and nobody within that pool applied. I wouldn't want it to let it sit vacant, just waiting for someone like that. So as long as there's some caveat that if no one from any of that pool is interested, that it could go out to general public. But I mean, we definitely, that's our goal, is to help those really core members of the community with attainable housing.
Cool, thanks. Bill, that's all I had.
All right, good. Thank you, Eric. Robert?
Yeah, quick question for staff. If this property gets the designation now, how easy is it to return to a single-family home in the future?
What they would have to do is come through with an ordinance to the town council to rescind the special review. We've done several of those over the past, 5 to 10 years.
Not on ADUs
And they
necessarily, but on special reviews.
On special reviews for two-family dwellings. So not on ADUs.
Back to one family?
Yeah, back to one family.
Okay, that's it.
Alrighty, thank you, Rob. Gino, do you have any questions of staff or applicant?
Yes, I do. James, this is really more for you and staff. The two reports from both water and sewer are rather negative on this, and I don't think that we just can traipse around it without coming up with something that's agreeable. The question that I have for you is, when you provided or considered, having us considered a proviso where we have deed restriction, does this do what I think that you're saying it does? Does this put the total onus on Perco so that he's responsible for the water, sewer? Is responsible for any repair or anything that has to do with it?
So the referral comments related to water and sanitation, the water comments that are in your packet from SGM, who's the town's consulting engineer, basically indicate that they don't want the units sold separately from each other because they share a water service line. And they want to have the ability to make sure that the property owner is responsible. You know, if they get behind on their water payment, they can shut off water to the whole property. Whereas, you know, if they were sold separately and had the shared line, that would be an impossibility. So they wanted a condition that said that they can't be condominiumized and sold separately. And so staff has included that in the draft conditions that you have in your packet. Similarly, the sanitation district required that the applicant pay fee in terms of their tap fee. And so the applicant already did that, but they had a request that it also not be able to be condominiumized and sold separately for a similar purpose, that they have a shared sewer line between the two units. And so when there's a shared sewer line, the sanitation district requires that they do a shared maintenance agreement with the sanitation district, which requires that you know, that they have to be responsible for the maintenance on the sewer line in the future. So they don't want it to be sold off separately, the two units.
It's tough to hear you too much, or very much, James, because there's a funny echo in however you're coming across, and I apologize for, so I don't mean to continue the questioning, except that I don't have an answer. The reason that I'm questioning is because somehow in the reading I got the opinion that PERCO has said that they have come before the sewer board and they have made the appropriate consent by the sewer board that they're doing the right thing and that he's responsible for both sewer for both units. Even though it was done with some folderol that's in there. The water department is not the same. The water has cannot be controlled in the same way. So in a nutshell, to me, you either have to have a shared service where one person, and this would be PERCO, would be totally responsible for both the water and the sewer maintenance if we were not to go ahead with the alternative language of deed restriction. Because deed restriction does not satisfy what we have about two water lines, does it? Water meters.
You're correct, Gino, that they're aiming at two different issues. The water line and the sewer line are being handled by not allowing him to sell off that unit. So the bill is gonna go to the PERCO Riffle home for both water and sewer, and if they don't pay it, our remedy is just with PERCO. The deed restriction is really trying to get at who can live in the property, getting at other goals of the town in terms of, you know, occupancy and whether one of the units is deed restricted to actually have to be a resident of the town of Basalt. So they're kind of aimed at two different, you're correct, they're aimed at two different things.
I can't beat this dead horse anymore, so I don't know exactly what he said, Bill, but I guess I'll have to come back on the comment side of it. I don't want to take up any more of your time and questions.
All right, thank you, Gino. Okay, let's open this up for public comment now. Public comment portion of the meeting at 6:33 p.m. And if anyone wants to make a comment, please use the stated methods.
Okay, so remember, for those of you who are watching Grassroots TV, you are to email planning@basalt.net or text 970-379-1514 And when Bill started opening up the public hearing, I put my timer on because there's just a little bit of a delay from what people on TV say. I think that we got a couple comments, and James will need to comment into the record. We did receive one email from, and James, maybe you can just summarize everything, and then I'll look to see if we got any additional emails or texts.
Yeah, we received an email right before the meeting here from Doug and Margaret McLaughlin, who live across the street, and they have indicated that they do not support additional density here or in the Hill District, Lower East Cypress Drive, because of traffic concerns primarily, it looks like, and concerns about the intersection of Frying Pan Road and Cypress Drive. And increased traffic is their concern. They also believe that there's not adequate parking. And they're referring to both houses, so I think they might think that the adjacent property is part of the application as well, but I can't say for sure.
Do you want to summarize the other people that asked you to read it for the record?
Yeah, and we received one other one from Jamie McDougall. Jamie McDougall indicates that he is concerned about short-term occupants if the property is ever sold in the future, and he's concerned that it should be sold as one property and not separate units.
And then want to just enter the email into the record, the Jerry Wright's email.
Yes, and Jerry Wright is the email that you received from Susan, and it indicates concern about parking related to this property and the adjacent triplex property.
So, our 2 minutes when we opened up the public hearing have passed. I didn't get any more text messages, and I didn't get any more emails from anyone saying that anyone else wanted to speak.
Okay, so has enough time elapsed that we feel comfortable closing?
And I just received one actually from Mr. McDougall that I just read. He says his main concerns are consistency in following zoning and permitting regulations of the town. The property should be kept as a single-family home with an ADU. Otherwise, if approved, the unit should not allow short-term rentals and deed restriction to keep it as one property or both are both necessary to maintain the character and density limits of the street.
Alrighty, so, any more, Susan? Nothing else?
You know, I don't have anything else.
So do we feel comfortable closing this now from just a timing standpoint?
You know, I feel pretty comfortable with the delay, and I'm assuming that if people are watching, they would have texted or emailed if they were planning on speaking. So I think I'm pretty comfortable. James, you think we're comfortable too?
I do.
I think we're comfortable closing the hearing.
Okay, good. Let's close the public comment meeting at 6:37 p.m. And we will move on to commissioner comments. Joan, do you want to start making comments?
The parking that they have with this property, they wholly own that land down there in the front of the property?
They do. That's correct.
It's not on an easement or anything?
It's not. I can show the site plan. Let me share that for a quick second.
Joan, is that all of your comments?
Yeah, that's the only comment. I wanted to be sure there was no changes that they would have to make in the parking somewhere along the future.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
here's the parking right here.
Okay,
And here's the road easement as it goes up the adjacent property.
okay. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, Tracy, do you have any comments on this?
Nope.
Okay. Bernie, comments?
No, I'm clear on it.
Okay. Eric, do you have a comment to make?
I'm just concerned about doing the ADU deed restricted, rental, aspect of it properly, and I'm not sure there's necessarily a right answer. I think the applicant's trying to do the right thing and at the same time, meet some of the goals we've set forth, so more just a whatever comment than a specific thing, but.
All right. Thank you. Rob, do you have any comments to make?
I'm not quite sure where Eric was coming from. I don't think that the neighbor's parking situation should affect the application here. He needs 4 spots, he has 4 spots. So I guess I think where we want to go as a community is towards deed restricted ADUs.
Alrighty, thank you. Gino, do you have comments to make?
Yeah, unless you can offer a little bit more clarity, I still have quite a bit of a problem with allowing this to move forward when it is clearly not in the best interest of the water or the sewer department. And to me, as I think that this is the only way that I think to offer approval, is if it either takes on total responsibility or they go ahead and put in a separate water. So
Okay.
there's 2 homes and 2 water meters and 2 sewers.
I think you know. I have some comments to make. First off, I want to talk about Doug and Margaret McLaughlin's comments. They have no position to talk. They have an ADU in their own house. And I know because I lived in it. So there's that. Personally, I support the ADU and the ADU language. I think that would be more consistent with what we're trying to do, but I have a real reason for doing that, and part of it has to do with, without doing the ADU language, we allow short term. And I have both of the houses adjacent to mine short term from time to time, and both of them cause problems, and one of them very specifically with a shared driveway that's not public, with short-term residents blocking the driveway, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't even call the cops about it because it's private. So the whole short-term thing in that neighborhood really has a tendency to bollocks things up. It does in my neighborhood, and I don't know in any condition or situation where the ADU, or the, not ADU, but the short-term rental is a good thing. So to that end, I personally support keeping it as an ADU with the ADU language that we have in our packet that James has put there. I would like to take a straw poll about the commission's sense of that. So then that's what I would support. Joan, where do you stand on that?
I think if you're talking about what do you consider short term?
What the codes call short term, anything under 30 days.
I mean, I don't think the applicant was looking for short-term rental.
Yeah. Well, no, but this is one point I really want to make, is we've had a number of things come before us as a board where people said, well, we intend to do X or we intend to do Y. And really what people's best intentions are vary after a period of time. There have been a number of instances where we've heard things where we need to stay in our house and we need to do this to stay in our house. And this, we've been long-term locals and we need to do this. And, as soon as they get an approval, the house goes on the market. We don't know what's gonna happen with this house, and we don't know how long they're gonna hold it, and we don't know what the nature of the people who hold it after them will be. So whatever representations they make in good faith are fine, but that's not bound to the next owner of the house, which we all will have to live with. So that's one reason I like to be very, very careful about this. Tracy, do you have any thoughts about the ADU versus non-ADU issue?
Well, I'm more or less in your camp, Bill.
Okay. Bernie, do you have any thoughts about this?
Oh, sorry, I muted Bernie, sorry. Bernie, I muted you, sorry.
Yeah, did you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with the ADU restriction, but I don't see a need to require it to be affordable housing.
Okay. Eric, do you have any thoughts about the ADU issue after that?
Like I was expressing, I'm a little wishy-washy on this. I'll probably follow the lead of the committee, as we see. I understand your reasons for the ADU, and I agree with that assessment. I think the applicant is in good faith, but you're right, you know, what something happens, something changes, even though they want to be in there for the next 30, 40 years, I'd like to have that certainty as well.
All right, thank you. Rob, you've expressed your opinions. Are you still of the same mind about that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Gino, do you have any thoughts about this issue? I know how you feel about the water issue.
Yeah, I cannot support it the way it is.
Okay. Now, the next question is, does anyone amongst us have an intention to support Gino in this about the water meter sewer tap issue?
Can that maybe be clarified to make Gino feel more comfortable? Because I read it a little bit differently in the packet, where the water department would prefer 2 meters, but didn't seem like to be a deal killer, and ditto on the sewer.
Well, I think generally that's how staff read it as well, Rob, is that, you know, they are accepting of having the condition in there about not being able to sell the units separately and not condo them, on both the sanitation district and the water side of things.
Would that need to be part of a motion? Would that need to be part of a motion, or is that already in the document?
It's already in the draft conditions of approval.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
So, Gino, it sounds to me like both water and sewer would accept with certain conditions.
And you know, staff clarified that with the Public Works Director as well, Boyd Beerbaum, and he reiterated that was their concern, that they not be sold separately.
Yeah, I think that if we have that condition as it's written right now in the motion, I think that would take care of sewer and water. So, I think we're close enough in agreement here. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this as per staff memorandum and with the ADU language as proposed.
Alrighty, we have a first. Do we have a second?
So just to clear that, or you want to discuss afterwards?
We could discuss that now if you want, Rob.
The ADU that Eric referenced is deed restricted.
Yes, it's the deed restricted one, and it's the one that's in the packet that has the grayed out language.
Okay, there are 2. One says
they're related.
But either way, I'll second.
Okay, good. So we have a first, we have a second. All in favor? Susan, do you want a roll call vote, please?
Yes, please, so, Bill Marin,
Yes, as amended.
Joan Keith,
As amended.
Gino Rossetti,
No.
Eric Volzek,
Yes.
Tracy Bennett,
Yes,
Bernie Grauer,
Yes.
Rob Levitt.
Yes.
So the motion carries 6-1 with the amended language.
All righty, thank you very much. Then we move on to item number 4, commissioner comments and staff updates. Susan, do you want to start with staff updates?
John, good luck with everything.
Thank you all so much for your time, and I appreciate all your service. Have a great
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you, John.
thanks.
Thank you, John. Have a good one.
Well, we've been really busy. Nothing's substantially changed from the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. We have the application for the car wash in Southside that's out for referral comments. And currently that is scheduled for your May 19th P&Z meeting, at least as an introductory meeting. And so that everyone knows where that site is. Correct, it is the site across from Big O. We've been working hard in Willits Town Center. All of the applications that we have are moving forward. Tim Belinsky has got a temporary CO on one of the townhomes, and that has sold. He's moving ahead on the north side of that block with mixed use. Aspen Ski Company is actively under construction. Taka is moving forward. Stedman Clinic is moving forward. So we've been dealing with managing some parking issues in Willits Town Center. We've gotten inquiries on other properties. I don't think there's anything else major to add, James. Is there something I should?
St. Vincent application is in, and we're working to get that to a referral for expansion of the church.
Oh, I have something on that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I just add something? I know that building has, and maybe you already know it too, I'm sure you do, it has a lot of bats up there, up in the attic.
I did not know that.
They do, and I wanted to make sure that when that went through, that they did something about that issue, like bat houses or something. Don't want that demolished and destroyed, because bats are good. So I want.
Tracy, they have bats in the Belfry?
Yes, they do.
Gino, did you hear that about bats?
So I just know someone that lives next door and sees them come and go, and it's pretty wild. So I wanted to make sure that I made a comment that they can't just I want that mitigated somehow, or keep me abreast or something, because they're vital to the ecosystem, and I don't want to see that thing in a huge displacement. So
you mean have them mitigated without killing the bats?
yes, bat houses, they need to, somehow, some way. You can't just go in there and kill them.
Okay,
Sorry. It's not going to sit right with me.
We'll work with the applicants to try to figure that out.
Okay, thanks.
So I don't think we have anything else, right, to add, James? Sorry.
I don't believe so.
Gino has a commissioner comment, Bill.
Yeah, I have, as long as we've got a moment of time, is there anything that's holding up us as planning and zoning commissioners of requesting the town, the mayor, to propose to get that damn black plastic fence down? It's a terrible blight. Many people in the town discuss it, And I think it might be a positive and uplift if we could, move along on that. At one time, I was told that we couldn't because the landowners at that time were against any changes at all, which I respect. But now that it's basically a done deal between the town and the planner, or and the developer, what is holding it up?
Well, the CDC currently owns the property still. You could ask them to take it down. We've been having some initial conversations with the developer, Tim Belinsky, on some signage to indicate the additional town park area and art base coming, and the new restaurant and development piece, and contact information for all those entities if you want more information. You know, if the P&Z wanted to make a request to the owner that they take it down, you could do that. I'm not sure until the property's actually changed hands what the response would be, but there's nothing preventing you from making a request that you would like to have the fence taken down.
Does anybody else on the commission feel that
Oh, I think,
it'd be helpful?
Totally.
I think we should. They'll just say no, but can't hurt to ask.
Yeah, I would support such a request.
Can I make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I think so. Let's make a motion. I support that. So if, Gino, you want to make a motion and someone wants to second it, let's go. So,
Gino, so moved?
all right, so we have a first.
I'm making a motion that we requested council to do what's necessary to get the plastic taken down.
Second.
Okay, we have a
So,
first
so
and a
let's
second.
clarify the
Susan,
motion before, hey, Bill, do you mind clarifying the motion? Because the first request sounded just a little different. So the latest, Gino direction was to ask the town council to do what they could to get the fence removed. Is that what the motion is, Gino?
But do we have to ask, can we just send a letter on our own? Or do you want the council to do it? Okay, whatever.
I'm just thinking, let me think for a second. I kind of think that you should direct it to the mayor, okay? And ask the mayor to take whatever action that they can to see about removing the fence. Because the P&Z really is a recommending group, so it probably is best somehow to go through the town council. So, James, you kind of agree with me?
I do.
Okay, so I think that the letter, you draft a letter for Bill's signature asking the town council to see what they can do to get the fence removed.
Okay.
Letter for the mayor is good.
Yeah.
I would accept that.
Okay.
That sounds great.
I think it would be good if I can't quite hear everybody, but can we get a unanimous vote on it so that, Bill, that you'd be, saying that it was unanimously suggested or directed to write this letter?
Well, Susan, let's take a roll call vote, Susan.
Okay, so we have the first was Gino, second, Rob Levitt, and so ready for the roll call vote, Bill Marin,
Yes.
Joan Keefe,
Yes.
Gino Rossetti,
Yes.
Eric Volzek,
Yes.
Tracy Bennett,
Yes.
Bernie Grauer,
Yay.
Rob Levitt.
Yes, good idea, Bernie. Good idea, Gino, sorry.
So that passed 7-0, a unanimous vote.
Great. Okay, does anyone have any more commissioner comments that add to this?
Yeah, what is the next meeting?
Oh, I had a question, sorry. Are they done with the water park, the water feature that they were fixing? Is that done now?
No, they're
The
not
kayak
quite.
park?
No, their contractor had to leave to work on a river over by Avon, but he's coming back, or he is back and working again, as far as I understand
Okay.
it.
I have a question.
Bernie, go ahead.
Okay. Susan, could you update us on what are the steps or timeline necessary for the city to complete the transaction with the CDC acquiring the extra acre parkland?
Well, the current status is that the developer doesn't want to close until the letter of map revision on the floodplain is completely through the process. So there's a very legal process on that. So we've received comments back from the Federal Emergency Management Administration, FEMA, and we've resubmitted, and they've acknowledged that they have that receipt. So, you know, the earliest it's gonna be, honestly, is gonna be the end of this year. And we'll try to keep you as updated as we can, but.
And FEMA's comments, according to our hydrologist, were fairly minor for the
Yeah.
most part.
So the actual closing wouldn't be till next year, most likely.
There's a chance of that happening, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Anyone have any more comments to make to staff?
When is the next meeting?
The next meeting is May 19th, Tuesday, May 19th, 2 weeks from today. And the way I have it set up, we're not sure when town hall's gonna open. And so what I'm kind of thinking that is, even when town hall is open, we may allow the option for some of the P&Z members to participate remotely. So we've asked Grassroots to continue filming for sure through June, but we don't have a date yet when town hall will reopen. But we might allow, and I'll talk more maybe to Bill once we know, Bill Marin more when we know things. But that's how we were kind of thinking, is that even when, like say, next week they said, okay, we're gonna open it up, we're gonna open town hall and you can come in and have P&Z meetings in here. I think we'll allow the option for P&Z members who choose to stay home to participate remotely while this is going on.
Good.
So Susan, I'd also like to make a request if we could. I'd like to try and get at some point at our earliest possible convenience, either by Zoom or in person, to have a meet and greet with the new council between this board.
Okay, that's a good request. Okay.
Doesn't have to be immediate, but as soon as we if town hall is gonna open again, then maybe we could do it then where some people phone in and some people do it in person. I think it would be a good thing to do.
Okay.
Alrighty, anybody have anything else for staff? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first, we have a second. All in favor, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Bill Marin,
Yes.
Joan Keefe,
Yes.
Gino Rossetti,
Yes.
Eric Volzek,
Aye.
Tracy Bennett,
Yes.
Bernie Grauer,
Aye.
Rob Levitt.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0.
All righty. Thank you all very much. It's been a very good meeting. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you in 2
See you
weeks.
later.
Well, see you.
Hi.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.